Hi everyone, welcome to Tech Down Over. I'm Rick Zanotti and I'm joined today by my good friend and co-host from Down Under. It is Geoff Blanchard. How are you, Geoff?
Good, thank you, Rick. In the middle of winter here, but it's really nice weather to get out with the cameras.
I wish, send us some of the cold. We're burning over here in Southern California. And today we've got with us Darren Miles. He's from sunny Southern Florida, just the other side of the world. So we got all three. We got two coasts and the other side of the world on today's show. This is great. Well, here we go. And we are back, and there's Darren in the middle position. You're in the position of power. You know that, right? That's the control position.
Sure.
How have you been, Darren?
I've been really well, thanks, Rick. You guys changed your intro. I
Yeah,
really
we did. After 5 years, we said we need a new intro. So.
Yeah, it works. It looks really good. I like the surfboard part, especially with your faces superimposed on those really buff guys. It's actually very amusing.
Yeah, we work out a lot, actually, but actually, I do work out. I know Geoff does too. Most people don't know, but on the side, I teach martial arts. I just keep it quiet. Been doing that since I was a little kid, and so that's a lot of fun. And so Darren, what you been up to? We were talking a little bit pre-show that last year was, man, you guys, you got blessed, because I remember we were all sitting going, oh man, I hope you make it through the storm, and you did, and your place didn't get wiped out, even though other places around you did.
Well, it's true. I don't know if you saw that. I posted a video on YouTube with regard. It was like an Irma recap and everything that had happened. Yeah. And we got super lucky. I mean, when I tell you, in fact, by the way, just to kind of put things in perspective, there was the only real damage that we had was tree damage and lanai damage. In Florida, we have a lot of lanais to cover the pools to keep the bugs out. And so many lanais were damaged that today, let's say, like almost 10, 11 months after the storm, today was the day that we finally got our lanai repaired. Today, 10 months after the storm. So, but overall, apart from that, business has returned to normal. The economy is on fire. We're doing all right. I mean, business is generally very good.
That's great. That's great. And one thing I really, you never enjoy something like that, but you enjoy the people's response. And I remember a lot of us, and you even mentioned this, how many letters you got, how many notes, how many videos talked about you. And I think that's great. That's one of the things of YouTube and really the internet, where when people know you and they know where you are, the first thing you think of is that person. And I thought of one other guy I knew. I knew two other people in Florida I was also concerned with. Larry Becker is one, who we know really well. And then there was Peter Gregg, who we don't know that well. We know him a little bit. And you just go, man, I hope everybody survived, because it really did look bad. And of course TV made it look even worse than it probably was, which also makes you go, oh gosh, it's like it's antediluvian over there. So like when we have an earthquake and it's bad and there's a ton of damage, but it's not as bad as it could be. And I guess that's always the good part of it. But no, we were all glad.
News organizations are all they're basically selling ratings, so they're going to try to make it as dramatic and as bad as possible.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, it was not. We got the eye of the storm. It went right through my neighborhood, and we got super, super lucky. And you notice they weren't hanging around here for months after the storm, basically because the response here was so well organized and well put together. There wasn't a lot of drama. We just had a job to do, and we just got it done.
Yep, that's great. That's great. Did that affect your business at all, as far as, and I know you do a lot of real estate photography. For those who don't know, Darren's an incredible real estate photographer. Does some beautiful work even teaches classes on how to be a very good real estate photographer. And did that affect you at all, or did it come back quickly?
The month of September, well, interesting, when life hands you lemons, you make lemonade, right? I mean, right after that storm happened, I was hired by, I'm not exaggerating, probably about 300 or 400 homeowners who live in the northern part of the U.S., like in New York or Massachusetts or Michigan. And they hired me. Hey, I understand you have a drone. I want you to fly over the roof of my property and see if it's damaged at all. I must have done 300 of those and charged a fortune for it. So I did really well because of the storm. So I don't have a whole lot of complaints.
That's interesting.
In fact, ironically, it was one of the best months I ever had. And by the way, you mentioned real estate photography. I will be going live with my next seminar here in Southwest Florida for October 9th through the 11th, Camp Miles, to teach folks who are interested in becoming real estate photography. Basically, it's kind of breaking into the business and how to do it. Everything from prospecting to shooting to post-processing, invoicing, virtual tours, etc. It's a really good ground level foundation to get your business going.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize it's not the easiest thing to do. You got to work at it, and I know some people who think they're real estate photographers, and they'll go up and go, "I've taken a picture of a house before," and they go, "Oh, great, we'll hire you," and the results are just pathetic. They don't look good at all, and you just go, "Why would you hire a guy?" And some of these are like $1 million houses, and you go, "Why are you hiring this guy to make your house look stupid?" It's like, I don't get it.
Well, you could probably say the same thing about every genre of photography.
That's true.
How many people have taken selfies as their professional portrait? I mean, it's crazy to me, but they still do it.
Yeah, that's true. And especially with good lighting, right? But no, it's true. And definitely send us some of the information. We'll plug your seminar for you too. So let us know, and we'll put it on the show notes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it should be going live here probably on Monday to actually buy a space in the course. It's only for 12 people. Once they hit 12, it's cut off. And then, but I do have the online version of the course as well.
Great, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Wish you luck on that one, because I know it's good content, and I've seen the work you do. You've done some commercials on what you do and stuff, and it's, it always helps to live in really pretty areas too, and it's just beautiful out there with some of the beach homes and everything else, but it's a lot of work to get it right. I remember one time I was watching just YouTube, and somebody was talking about, have you ever looked at the houses? I think it was Scottsdale, Arizona. I think it was Scottsdale. So I looked and I went, oh my gosh, these are houses built into mountains. They're thousands of 5,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet, secret rooms, this, that, carports, indoors. They have elevators. It's like, oh my gosh, $5 to $25 million houses. And whoever photographs them, they're gorgeous. I mean, they just make the house like something you want. You can't afford it, but you want it. It's pretty mind-boggling seeing the work that goes on in that kind of real estate photography, and some of the houses that are built out there, and you just go, wow, how do you afford that? It's a lot of money. But
in that genre, I think probably like any other genre, there are different levels. There's what I would refer to as your basic real estate photography. You're talking about a small condominium or a small house that may be valued at $200,000 to $500,000. And that's like one level. Yeah. And then you get to $1 million plus, and that's when you need to look more like an Architectural Digest kind of photographer.
Yes.
As opposed to your standard run-of-the-mill real estate photographer.
Yeah.
And there's places for both of them. And that's actually one of the biggest parts of the class, is explaining the difference between the two, because there's a huge difference between the two of them. Yeah, how you process, how you prospect, and how you actually create those images.
Yep. And of course, people go in without wide-angle lenses, with the wrong lenses, and of course they go, why did the house look so small? Why are you using the wrong lens?
That's a nice couch.
Oh, yeah, that's a nice couch. So it's sort of interesting. So yeah, it's kind of cool. You're one of the few I know that actually does a lot of teaching on that and stuff, and I think that's really just a great venue for getting people educated in that. Do you get people coming from all over the area, or is it just from all over the U.S.?
From all over the U.S. I've done the seminar twice, and there's been a total of about 15 participants altogether, and they've come from everywhere: Chicago, New Jersey, Indiana. Actually, several from Chicago, one from North Carolina, a couple from Florida. So they kind of come from all over. So it's really open to pretty much anybody, and I'd say 2/3 of the audience came as a direct result of YouTube.
Oh, great. That's really good. So what are you shooting with nowadays?
That's a great question. I'm still kind of camera agnostic. For my real estate stuff, it's still primarily Nikon. I still shoot a Nikon D750 and a Nikon 14-24. If I were just starting out, I'd probably do something a little bit different, but the differences in image quality aren't big enough for me to spend that much more money to make that jump. For example, I think the Tamron 15-30 is a better lens. I think the Sigma 14-24, they just come out with the art lens, is a better lens than the Nikon 14-24. Yeah. But there are differences that we as photographers would see. I don't think the average client would really notice the difference.
Yeah.
I do have a Sony A7R Mark III. I did make the plunge to buy it. I have been using it, but I'm using it more for video than I am for stills.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a much better camera than the Mark I and the Mark II. It's a much better camera.
Yeah.
I bought still ergonomically driving me crazy.
I actually bought the A7R. We had a good year last year, so we had to invest to lower our taxes, and so we bought a whole mess of Sony equipment. And you won't believe it, we sold it all. We bought it and we sold it. It was okay. I didn't like the ergonomics at all. I'm used to Canon and Panasonic ergonomics, which I think are better. I had Nikon for a while. Actually, I had the D750. That's the only camera I actually missed when I sold it. I love the D750. At the time, we just didn't want to invest that much in Nikon because we still had too much in Canon. But it's interesting. Sony was good. They take nice pictures. They're good quality.
The glass is good.
And the lenses are beautiful. I love the lens. I wish I could have kept the lenses, but there's nothing that adapts to them.
It's right. You can adapt to Sony. You can't go the other way.
No, and I was going when I bought them. I figured, oh, you know what? If I sell the Sonys, I love the lenses. And no, I should have done my homework. There's nothing. There's some cheap adapters, but they do nothing.
Right.
And I went, oh, darn. So that was the only thing I regretted selling. The lenses I thought on Sony were really good. They were clean and they're quiet. And you're right, they're not bad for video.
No. The continuous AF for the video shooting on the A7R Mark III is every bit as good to me, in my opinion, as I've got a C100 Mark II.
Oh, do you? Okay.
And it has good face tracking, but it's limited to a certain number of lenses that aren't even the best lenses. Whereas Sony doesn't care. They'll face detect in just about anything.
Yep.
Hey, Geoff. You can ask a question?
Yes. I keep trying to get a word in, but struggling.
Sorry, Geoff. Go on. It's your turn.
I was just going to say to Darren, before you said about the Sonys, I saw with interest way back when you did a review on the A7R Mark II, and you were saying people were saying about it being a professional camera, and you was dead against that, saying about the limitations. What's your thoughts now with looking at the A7R Mark III with all the upgrades that they've done to it?
That's a fantastic question. I haven't reviewed that camera, but I have been using it. I've been using it now. I wasn't even going to buy one. A friend of mine said you really need to try it because it is really better than the A7R Mark II. So let me borrow it for a couple of weeks. And I have to say I was very impressed, and that I made a video on it saying this is why I'm going to buy it. And it's the same stuff that, frankly, a lot of other people have said about it. The battery life is better, the ergonomics are better. They found they have a joystick so you can manipulate the focus point a lot more easily if you like to shoot with point focus. I've gotten a lot more comfortable with the face detect system that they have, which I think is really good. And the battery life is so much better. It's so much better. In fact, I bought 3 batteries, I think it's because I was gun shy. And I still don't go through one battery in a shoot. And I've used it on full days before, so it's been great. In that regard, I still don't like it. I still don't love it for stills. Ergonomically, I still don't love it for stills, but I do really like it for video. In fact, I like it more than the GH5. I really do.
Interesting. Well, the focus is better. GH5, even with all the changes they've made and the updates, it's still not there on the video.
The AF isn't there. The AF is not there.
No, it's depressing. I want to love that camera. I do love the camera.
Me too.
We have 2 of them, but I don't trust it for a long shoot. I trust it for short things. But anything long,
shutter angles. People talk about doing 179-degree shutter angle.
Not anymore. No, they got rid of that. With the version 2 firmware, it's 180. They don't even allow you to change it anymore because that's the fix. They've fixed it so it's better, and it is better. But for example, if you're running that camera and you walk into the screen in face detection, it won't even notice you there. It's like, what? Yeah. Until you tap on yourself.
Behind you.
Yeah. So if you're trying to do selfie work, it's pretty hard unless you've got the controller. I mean, the cell phone, and it looks pretty good to do that. You can tap on yourself, and then you're clean. But it will not recognize you, even in face detection, when you walk into a shot.
No, it's very good at single point detect. So if you focus on yourself, and as long as it's not continuous focus, you'll be fine. But you can't move. You can't move forward or backward. If you do, you're gonna fall in and out of focus.
That's right. And if they could fix that. Now you said you had the C100 Mark II.
Yeah.
On that one, I don't remember. Did that have the dual pixel autofocus?
It does.
It
was
does.
included with it. What it doesn't have is it doesn't shoot in 4K. But
that's right.
The image quality is fantastic, and the audio quality of the C100 Mark II is as professional and as good as it gets. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice camera. I've been looking at the C300 going, but it's like it's $8,000 I think right now, 8,500.
Get the C200. Get the C200.
You like that one?
I haven't used it, but if it's anything like the C100 Mark II with 4K, I would get it tomorrow. I think the C100 Mark II is a great camera.
Well, it's interesting.
I wish it shot 4K, but I'm telling you, I'm so used to throwing whatever native lens I can on the A7R Mark III.
Right.
And the face detect is so good that I haven't felt the need, and I can shoot in 4K in camera. I haven't felt the need to go back to the C100 Mark II. So it's frankly, since I got the A7R Mark III, the C100 Mark II has been collecting dust.
That's pretty good, huh? That's interesting. That's expensive dust.
It sure is. It sure is.
Even though they've gone down to like...
If you want to buy a C100 Mark II, let me know.
Yeah, they've gone down now, though. I think they were like $4,500 at one point, or a little bit more.
$200 now. They're still expensive. Canon's still expensive.
They are.
Much cut their prices.
No, they haven't much. Not too much.
There's almost a state of denial about it, actually, but...
Yeah.
You know,
though they claimed recently, about a month or two ago, they said they will no longer lose. In the next year to two, they're going to redo all the cameras for video and everything. They didn't promise anything other than they said they will no longer lose on specs. Interesting claim. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
It certainly is a company that if they do just the things that a few people want, that we all want out there, people will just buy them hand over fist no matter what. So if they put the things get all the cameras together, that all the bits that people like, and make one, would be on a winner there as well. And Darren, we were saying before, I think before the pre-show, they were saying about working out, and Rick was saying he does a bit of working out, and I was thinking these days, I saw you did one on a handheld gimbal, and I've seen some of these handheld gimbals are getting so damn big and heavy. I think we all need to have a workout every day to do them. What are you sort of using in these handheld gimbals, if any, at the moment?
That's a great question, Geoff. You may or may not be aware of this. Recently, I became an ambassador for Zhiyun, for the cranes, which I was grateful. They reached out. I've been a user of their gear, and I made a couple of videos on how much I like them in general, because I reviewed the Zhiyun Crane and the Zhiyun Crane M back in the day. And recently they reached out to me and asked me if I was interested in becoming an ambassador, and I was like, sure, why not? And they've been sending me stuff, even though I believed in the product because I've been using it. But right now I have the Zhiyun Crane Plus and the Zhiyun Crane 2, and I love the Zhiyun Crane 2 because it can handle the D750, the 14-24 at the same time. It can handle up to 7 pounds, and it handles it really well. And now with the A7R Mark III, I can adapt the Nikon 14-24, or I can use a native lens like the Samyang, Rokinon, Bauer, or whatever, 14mm f2.8, and I can utilize the Zeiss Batis 18 2.8, which is great, by the way. If you haven't seen the video on that, it's a great lens. It's freaking expensive, but it's a great lens. And so to answer your question, Geoff, because I'll tell you, the A7R Mark III and the Zeiss Batis 18mm combined, it's less than 2 pounds. And the crane weighs more than those two things do together. And 18mm is wide enough for real estate video. It's on the borderline wide enough, in my opinion, for real estate photography, but to each his own.
I did see your very dangerous thing with one of the little handhelds on that. What was it? That,
on the zip line?
What do you call it? That sliding. I saw from the beginning. I was worried before you even started. I thought, oh no. And I actually was quite pleased that it was only that little thing. I was just seeing the phone going flying out of the thing. That's what I was expecting to do. But tell us about that.
It actually turned out to be okay. I made it a little more dramatic than it probably was, but that's just artistic, by design, artistically, I guess. But we took that cruise, and the whole week they saved like that zip line and that stay for like the last day of the cruise, or the second last day of the cruise. And the kids have been talking about that the entire time. It's like, oh, we're gonna do the gotta do the zip line, gotta do the zip line. So we kept talking about it. I'm like, this is going to be a great opportunity to take advantage of the Smooth 4, make a video, stick a GoPro on my head, and just have a ball with it. And as you saw in the video, it didn't quite turn out. I didn't really even think about wind resistance on, you know, that flat board that is the iPhone 7 Plus, and how much wind, like a sail, that would create going down at 45 miles an hour in addition to a 25 mile an hour crosswind. It was a lot harder to manage and hold on and everything simultaneously. But when I finally hit at the end, because you had to physically make that connection between the gimbal or the camera that you were carrying and your physical person, I kind of jerry-rigged it with with my lanyard, the thing that you put over your neck and that you can screw on. And I kind of did it that way, and as you saw in the video, it didn't quite work the way I wanted it to. Zhiyun has committed to me that they're going to send me another Smooth 4, which I'm pretty happy about. Yeah, but in the end, it turned out okay.
I must say that I was quite surprised that they allowed you to do that, because there's a lot of those things that these days with occupational health and safety, they won't even let you. I know in the early days, I used to love taking the camera when on the front of a roller coaster and holding. They won't let you do that. Doing shot flaps on all these scary, because they know you're going to let it go and it's going to smash somebody else in the back of the head.
Totally.
And do some damage, but they won't let you near there with the camera.
Anything goes, as we learned. You sign all these liability waivers, and basically they're like, okay, you want to bring the camera? Because they let you know beforehand. You lose it, it's gone forever. So they let us know that before we did it. I'm like, all right, I'll tie it to my lanyard and let's see what happens. And you saw what happened.
Now, you like the crane, though. I remember seeing some of the reviews on it. And
I think Zhiyun makes a great product. And again, I thought that before I became an ambassador. I think they made me an ambassador because of how much I like the product.
Yeah.
Zhiyun makes a great gimbal. The newest ones are even better. The Ronin S just came out, and they kind of want me to do a comparison video between the two of them. So that's on my agenda, one of the things I want to do. Right now, I just finished recording a video. I haven't done a video in about 3 weeks, primarily because you take a vacation, whenever you get back, you just get hammered with stuff to do. But I just finished recording a video on how to utilize some of the other modes that are available on these gimbals. Everybody gets the gimbal, and the default mode is pan following. You know, the one where you kind of just go around like this.
Yeah.
But they have this locking mode. It's like, how or why do you use locking mode? And I made a video, or I'm about to publish a video on why and how you can utilize locking mode to give you some cool cinematic effects.
Yeah, locking. Actually,
I've been looking at some of the Zhiyun Crane gimbals, and like you said, that between the Ronin S. But as I said, they're both quite good. But the Zhiyun seems to have, to me, probably a bit more features, with what you get with the package as well. So, but it'll be interesting to see your comparison anyway.
Well, it's on my list of things to do. I haven't gotten the Ronin S yet because it's in very high demand and it's really difficult to get a hold of one. And Zhiyun is just waiting for me to get. It's like, okay, well, when they become available, I'll get one. But it's been kind of like the Nikon D850. They're almost impossible to come by. So when that does ultimately happen, though, I will hopefully make that video.
So D850s are still hard to come by?
It's been a year. They're still back ordered at B&H.
Wow, that's amazing.
And yeah, the A7 Mark III is kind of in the same boat. You can't get one of those anywhere either.
Right, that's what I heard. It's kind of tough. Now, you mentioned you didn't like the Sony that much for pictures, and I agree with you. But I'm just curious what you don't like about it for pictures.
Well, first of all, this is very subjective stuff. So everybody's opinion on this is going to vary pretty wildly.
Yeah.
My take on it is, the big thing right now is color science. Everybody talks about color science, and I think there's something to it. I think it goes from camera model to camera model and camera company to camera company. I think, in all my experience, I think Canon and Olympus have the best colors, my opinion. I think the Nikon D750 is arguably the best Nikon camera for color. Most of my other Nikons, I haven't used the D850, but most of my other Nikons are very green. They have like a green tinge to them. Right. The Canons have beautiful skin tones. But the thing about Sony, I noticed a couple of things. The skin tones just seemed a little bit just off, and the greens and the yellows in the background I utilize this one scene a lot, and when I utilize Canon, the greens are just green, and they pop, and they're pretty, and they're beautiful. With Sony, at least in the default picture profile, everything just came off very muted. It just seemed like there was the difference between what I was seeing with my eye versus what was coming out of the camera were very, very different. And I really don't know why. I think it might be a picture profile. I might need to play with it. Now I will say that the beauty of the A7R Mark III is the sensor that Sony has put in that thing is butter. I mean, you could do anything with that. You can pull and stretch and manipulate those files 6 ways to Sunday, and they really, really hold together beautifully.
But I think you're right. There is that color science something. And it's funny, when you look at it on the LCD or even in the viewfinder, it doesn't look so bad. But then when you actually get it out, it looks, wait a minute, what happened? It doesn't look like it did on the view. And even if you have the viewfinder dimmed a little bit more, not really high, kind of like towards the middle range, it still looks different, and it's noticeably different. And that's one thing I didn't like on the picture stuff. And it's funny, not so bad on video, but on pictures, it's different. There's something weird going on there. And
well, it's funny, you know what else I noticed, Rick, to go along with that? During playback, when I press the play button to view the images and look at them through the viewfinder, they look better than they do on the back of the screen.
Right.
And I don't know why.
It's weird. Something's different in the way they're processing the colors. But you're right, Sony makes great chips. I mean, everybody except Canon uses them.
Right.
So they're doing something right there. The backlit chip, when we noticed, we were doing some testing with like really bright lights backlit. And that camera could take a picture of you sharp with backlighting, and you'd barely know that it was very sunny behind you. It looked absolutely fabulous, which the Canon couldn't do, not as well. Panasonic could barely do, but Sony got that with their and I imagine it's because of the backlit sensor. It just somehow compensates. But you're right. Something in the viewfinder.
Have you watched any of Manny Ortiz's videos lately?
No, not recently. I gotta go back and watch it.
Do you know who he is?
Yeah.
He put out a picture or video recently about, do you really need a flash? And he utilized the A7R Mark III in the Arizona sun, or it might not have been Arizona, but it was somewhere, and he did no flash, just the camera. Totally underexposed the shot, and then raised the shadows on the face of the woman who, I think it was his wife, of the photo, and I was like, oh my God. I mean, the dynamic range of the A7R Mark III just kind of, it's shocking. It's really, really good.
Like 15 stops? I think it's 15.
Something, it's stupid.
Yeah, and it's that, from that point of view, Sony's incredible. And it's funny, you're right, color science, I haven't really seen the Olympus color science. I've seen Fuji, and I think Fuji and Canon are really close. So now I'm curious, I want to look at what Olympus has done with color science, but Fuji to me is very similar to Canon. It's like, if I had to look at pictures, I probably wouldn't know which one was which. Nikon isn't quite as warm as, I don't know, I guess they're not quite as warm as Canon. Though Nikon takes, I remember with the D750, I still think that took some of the best pictures I've ever taken in my whole life. It's amazing. I could just point at anything and it was perfect. It's like, wow, this camera's just cool. And you recommended that one to me, and I went off and got it, and I just went, wow, this is a beauty. One of my favorite cameras, and like I said, it's one. When I sold it, I was going, darn, I wish I'd kept that one. That's one of the ones I liked, and it's good. It was a very good camera. I had the 810. I didn't like it that much. It reminded me of a clunky Canon, actually, sort of similar, though the image was nice on the 810. It was pretty good.
So Darren, with the the A7R Mark III, with what you were saying about you using it mainly for video, would you say it would be a good idea, say for somebody like me, I'm interested in one of these new Sony full frame cameras, to get, say, the A7 III, is it, not the R? Because to me the video seems probably a bit better than that, but it just hasn't got as good a viewfinder.
I think
frozen.
Darren, are you there?
Not frozen.
Oh, I think Darren froze. That's why I'm hearing a little bit of a electronic hum. You want to call him back?
I thought me froze. You there?
No, I'm moving. You're moving. Let's call him back. The computer locked up? Which one? Just do. You want to do a quick reboot? Oh, what happened? I don't know.
Oh, sorry, Darren. Well, it must have been my question. I think it must have been
it killed it.
Nikon or Olympus getting in on that question, saying, "I don't want to answer any more questions on Sony. We better talk about some."
That's right.
What Darren's saying though about the Olympus, I'm glad he said that, because I've thought for years I've seen a lot of people's Olympus shots, and one of the sort of the lower ones people don't talk to them about much. But I've seen some pictures, and I thought, their pictures are just fantastic.
They do look nice, don't they? And they have good glass.
But they just don't see a lot of them around. But the Olympus ones, and I think it's one of those ones, eventually it might get to the one where they'll become one of the bigger ones, because at the moment, yes, they're very well known, but when there's the Sony, Canon and Panasonic out there, it's very hard to get in there. So, but I was interested to ask Darren about, because he said he's got the A7R Mark III, and he's not too keen on the still shots. And from what I've been hearing is the A7 Mark III has the 24 megapixel still, so that's good enough if you're not too bothered about it. But I think it has a higher dynamic range on the video than the R3.
That's what they said. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
But the viewfinder, I think the viewfinder's got millions more pixels into
there we go.
See them, which is much better.
Hello.
Hi there. We don't know what happened there. The whole computer just hung.
It was very bizarre here too. I'm like, because we don't have the greatest internet connection on Friday afternoons. For whatever reason, it just shuts down, and I have no idea why. It just happens.
And this one just now, well, it's about 90 degrees outside, but still, that's not that bad out here.
That's nothing.
And it just froze, and we're cold in this room, so that was weird. I started hearing a hum, and then I realized, oh wait, it's frozen. So that was weird. So not sure what happened there. It might have been something, bandwidth, probably Microsoft. Geoff thought it was the Sony police. They go, no, you're not talking well about Sony. It's time to knock you out.
Exactly.
And Geoff was just saying something about Olympus. Geoff?
Well, no, what I was asking a question about the Sony at first, and then I thought it was a bit too much, so that's why the internet froze on us. But I was saying, with your opinion on the A7R Mark III, that you like it mainly for video. So for somebody like me, would you recommend the A7 III, just because that's probably a little bit better in the video, but it just doesn't have as good a viewfinder? So what's your thoughts on the A7 III?
Well, I haven't used one yet, so I can't say, but the impression that most of the folks who have used both have put out there, and again, I keep using Manny Ortiz. He's been putting out videos like crazy for Sony, and his impression is the difference between the two cameras is basically the same. The only real difference is that the A7 III crops a little bit when you record in 4K, but everything else is essentially the same. Face detect, everything.
Yeah, and I was also saying about your comment about the Olympus colors, and I thought it was just me, because I've thought over the years that their colors sometimes are just fantastic, and I think just doesn't get mentioned enough out there.
Well, I think the biggest thing going against Olympus is that they're just so married to the Micro Four Thirds sensor, right. And the OMD EM1 Mark II is a simply sublime and amazing camera. It's fantastic. However, like other Micro Four Thirds sensors, including the ones in Panasonic, you get into those low light situations, you just can't escape the noise. It's there.
Now, I have the Panasonic G9, which is their quote-unquote flagship photos camera. It does take nice pictures, and in low light, it's not that noisy. I've been impressed with it. In fact, that's one of the reasons I had the A9 too, and we sold that when I'm looking at the pictures in both going, this A9 cost me a whole mess of money, and the picture quality isn't that much better, if at all, than the G9. I was going, something's wrong here. I sold the A9, but the G9 amazed me. It's kind of one of my favorite cameras right now, because somehow they did it. Now, I haven't played with one thing that it has, only because I haven't had the time to, and that's they can take up to, I think, 85 megapixel images, with their, I think they shoot something 7 or 8 shots and merge them.
Yeah.
And it does it literally within 2 seconds. It's very fast. But I took a whole mess of pictures in Hawaii, and I was just shocked at how well they came out. It really surprised me. When I looked at them afterwards, I was going, this is kind of neat. So Panasonic's doing some things right. Just on video, they're just not quite all there. Now it's funny. They've got the G9, they've got the GH5, the GH5S, and they all have slightly different autofocus. And you go, guys, you really got to get it together, because they're not all the same. The GHS has better. The GH5S has better autofocus than the other two. The G9 has better autofocus than the GH5. So you're just going, why can't they make them this? It's probably the same chip, I imagine. So I'm not sure why they can't get it quite right. And of course, they have no face detect. It's only contrast, and I think that's their biggest issue.
Well, I think it's fair to say that like every camera company has something special about them. Like you look at Canon, people will tell you that Canon's kind of like the Mac of the camera world. Menus are great, colors are beautiful, but they intentionally handicap their stuff.
Yeah, right.
Nikon has the best sensors and the best like camera bodies, and then there's a debate about whose glass is better. Panasonic is all about video. Olympus is all about stills. Fuji, I haven't used Fuji, but there are Fuji fanatics out there that are just fanatical about Fuji and how great it is. I never so much as held a Fuji, so I can't say. You know, I think every camera company has their strengths and weaknesses, but much like you said, I think because they're so stereotyped into those strengths and weaknesses, we don't think of them as being good at anything else except for whatever that stereotyped strength is. Like in the case of Panasonic, the GH5, oh my God, they're video monsters. But everyone I've ever talked to about the G9 tells me what a great stills camera it is. I haven't touched one, but that's what I've heard.
I was amazed. It actually is a good stills camera. So just to wrap it up today, what do you think? Sure. Where do you think the industry's going? Is there any reason anymore to have DSLRs? I've gone pretty much mirrorless, short of maybe a Canon or two I still have. Is there any more reason to go DSLR?
That's the debate, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I wish I could tell you with a straight face that DSLRs are going to go away, and that seems to be the general consensus. Although, if Sony is paving the way for the mirrorless revolution, I don't know that I'm ready to jump on board yet. And I say that for a variety of reasons. I think the A7R Mark III is by far and away the best effort that I've utilized from Sony. Hands down, bar none, it's their best camera that I've used. I haven't used the A7 Mark III, I haven't used the A9. But the A7R Mark III it's overall a very, very good camera. But I go out on shoots all the time where I'm shooting portraits or real estate or whatever, and I find that I'm reaching for my Nikons.
Interesting.
And I've got, unless I'm shooting a video. If I'm doing a video for YouTube, I grab the A7R Mark III because I'm usually working alone and I need the continuous accurate AF, and that's why I use them. But is DSLRs going to go away? Yeah, it's probably going to happen. I'm genuinely curious to see what Nikon's new mirrorless is going to be. I'm really curious about that. I'm curious to see how they're going to adapt it to the old lenses.
Right.
I think there's a lot of potential there, but I think Sony has paved the way. I think it's almost like the Germans with automobiles. They've created they all have all these really good ideas, and they kind of throw a bunch of half-baked ideas into a product that really haven't been perfected yet. And then you bring along Canon or Nikon to say, okay, those are great ideas, and they should have worked with Sony, but they actually work with us. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. I don't know how seriously. You guys have interviewed Ken Wheeler a couple of times.
Oh, I know Ken. And
I talked to Ken's got a place not too far, but I talked to Ken several times on the phone too. And Ken, he's got it in for Sony, man. He hates Sony. But you makes a good point about how Sony is really an electronics company and not a camera manufacturer. And the more I get into Sony and the more I use them, I begin to understand that more, because to me, Canon and Nikon truly understand photographers.
Which is funny because
photographers, but their ergonomics don't match up quite the same way that Canon's and
But it's funny because Canon is also a non-only camera company. They're huge in other optics as well as other divisions. They've got a ton of different divisions. This is interesting. I was watching a podcast the other day, and I can't remember exactly who it was. I don't think I knew who it was. And he was talking about the report that just came out of Japan, top-selling cameras in Japan.
Yeah, the Canon mirrorless.
The Canon mirrorless, number one. And I went, number one? Number one. It's that M50, the cheapy $500, $600 M50 is outselling everybody.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even do good 4K. You just kind of go,
Did you see
wow.
Kai Wong's review on that?
Yeah, who was it?
Kai Wong's. He did it about a year ago.
I didn't see Kai's on that. I've seen a couple of others do the the M50 is the new one, though.
Yeah, he might have done one of the earlier ones.
I think he did the M5.
Sure, but he liked it.
He did the M5, which I have, and I like. It's one of those cameras you go, it doesn't do a heck of a lot, but it's cute. I like it. I don't know. It just feels okay for a small camera. But the M5 is outselling everybody in mirrorless. And I was listening to another article, and they said, you know why? Oh, Larry Becker said it when we interviewed him recently. He goes,
Who's Larry Becker?
Larry Becker? Oh, well, he's big in Canon. He does a lot of training for Canon. He does a lot of stuff. He's been with Scott Kelby. He was with Kelby One for I don't know how many years. Very nice guy. He's a little further north of you, but he's in that general area, I think. Hell of a nice guy. He's probably one of the nicest people in the industry. And he made a comment. He goes, you know why Canon sells so much? Because they go right to, let's say, QVC. Here's our M5. We got 1 million of them. And they sell 1 million copies in 2 days.
Well, they do that at Costco, too.
And it's Costco and Best Buy. And you just go, that's brilliant. And the other brands don't.
Well, for all of Canon's foibles, as far as how they intentionally handicap their cameras, I do give Canon credit for one thing. Whatever they put in their cameras, by and large, the camera does it well, and it just works. That's why the analogy of Mac makes so much. Like when you buy an Apple computer, it just works. And Canon doesn't really they did push the envelope with the 5D Mark II, and they were the first ones to do video and DSLR. Yeah. But since then, they haven't really done much in the way of innovation. No. But whatever the Canon does, it works. I mean, the 6D Mark II, obviously you probably know who Tony Northrup is, Tony in Chelsea? Yeah. He just did a video saying that he was wrong. The 6D Mark II is probably the best. By the way, I say vlog, but I've gotten ripped up and down for saying vlog, because I'm old school, like vmail, vlog. Right. No, I guess it's vlog. Vloggers should love the 6D Mark II. And I was like, I guess, I'll take a look at it.
Interesting. Yeah, to me, the only thing I didn't like about I wanted to buy that 6D Mark II, and then I saw the specs, and I kind of went, it's the same old again. And what really got me, the reason I didn't buy it, the main reason, I didn't really care that it didn't do 4K. I could live with that. All the focus points are in the center. Yeah. And that's it. There's nothing on the edges. It's like, oh, man, what gives? And yet, it's selling like crazy.
Yeah. Remember, they have a massive ecosystem. They have more lenses than everybody else. Yeah. So
even Nikon doesn't have as many.
I'm not a shooter much anymore, but I still have 8 of their lenses.
So Nikon doesn't have as many as Canon?
No.
No. Okay, because they're big too.
Yeah, they are.
Interesting.
Jeff, do you have a question?
No, I'm all finished up. I think we're nearly about to wrap up now. So.
Yeah, we're pretty much at the end. And just finishing up on that Canon review. They are the top #1 mirrorless seller. They're the top DSLR seller. They own 65% of the DSLR market, with Nikon about 30%. Yeah. And that doesn't leave much room for anybody else. So in the full frame DSLR, they own almost all of it. Sony didn't even register on that, and that's Japanese companies. And you just go, wow. And there was one other category, which was, I think it was 4K. And again, Canon came out #1 in 4K, and you just go, how did that happen?
Well, mirrorless, right? The M5.
Well, they're talking mirrorless. They're also talking the C100s. They sell millions of those. I mean, they sell tons of the C100, 200, 300. Those were all the pros we don't hear that much about. They're not so consumer-based, and or prosumer-based. It's amazing. They're still #1 in all the major categories, even though they've lost 40% of the market. It's just amazing. Losing that much. And then I read another article that said Canon is bigger than all of its competition combined. That's amazing. Wow. That's how big they are. So I guess it takes a lot to topple them.
If you're going to watch one video about Canon mirrorless cameras, you've got to watch Camera Conspiracy, and he does the Canon mirrorless, but he does it quite differently. He records the video and does it in the camera shop on their camera.
Yeah,
he's in the
funny.
Camera shop doing the review in the camera shop in Taiwan, criticizing it, doing all sorts of it. It's so hilarious because he has the image stabilization, and his face is shaking. But he
has a song. He writes this whole song about Nikon. What? Oh, he had one on Nikon. With Nikon, his line was, he has a line for every camera. And on Nikon, he goes, Nikon, your autofocus focuses on magically focuses on this invisible rabbit. Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it? And
but he's so funny.
And he's funny. He's actually pretty good. A guy named Casey Stern.
Check him out. I never heard of him
before. He's fun. He's pretty good. I think he's from Toronto, but he lives in Thailand right now. And his new camera that he wants, a Panasonic Olympus, a Canon.
Yep.
He wants everything mixed in together.
He wants a big one, all the best bits of all of the cameras put to death. And he builds one of his in one of his reviews, his ideal camera, gets all the nice things from every brand and makes one together of what he likes. But he's way out there, but he's very good. He's a Canadian who lives in Taiwan.
Yep.
It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we could take the aspects of 10 or 15 different cameras and stick them into one. That would be fantastic.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Darren, we appreciate you spending your Friday afternoon with us, and we know you've got things to do. And as always, we look forward to seeing you again. And good luck on the seminar you're doing on real estate and shooting, and so that should be fun. And hey, we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks again for coming on, Geoff.
All right, guys, I appreciate it.
Till next week.
Stay warm down there, Geoff.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Take care.